Do you know an Enneagram number? Guest Jayla Rae Ardelean uses the Enneagram to guide her clients in discovering strengths, setting goals, and becoming more self-aware. Come find out how your personality is shaping your entrepreneurial journey on today's 15-ish minute coffee chat. Enjoy. Hi, everybody. Okay, I'm back quickly just to say I'm not here. I'm sitting on an airplane heading to Hawaii to do client work, to do family stuff. I'm really excited. I'll be gone for a little bit, but yeah, today's show just ended up being on a day that apparently I booked our flight. And you know, when you're hustling hard, you just don't pay attention to certain things, and I'm really bummed about today's show. Anyway, I know Anna is gonna do amazingly and fantastic and have a great time, and I'm really curious to see all of the things that Jayla Rae is going to share with everybody. So I hope you enjoy. Thanks for joining our show, and we'll see you next week. Boop.
That leaves me here all by myself. Did you hear Selena's announcement? Yes. So scheduling conflicts put her on an airplane on her way to Hawaii right now to go see family and friends and clients. And that leaves me here to be doing our show today all by my lonesome, which is very sad, and it makes me very lonely. But I am excited for today's topic. And look, I think this is Selena. She's on the plane and watching until they say that she has to lock the phone down. So we know at least that she's here paying attention to how the show is going. All right. So without further ado, I am going to bring on the bio of our guest, Jayla Rae, because I am so excited to have this conversation with her. So let me go ahead and push this over. All right. So Jayla Rae Ardelean is a milspouse mentor, a writer, speaker, and the host of the Heart of the Milspouse podcast. Her work focuses on supporting the milspouse with former dreams to re-spark their inner purpose using empowered action and personal growth tools, including but not limited to the Enneagram. She refers to herself as a late career milspouse because she met her husband later in his career, 11 years in, and had advanced degrees and a whole career track of her very own. You can find her on Instagram or visit her online to learn more. We're going to go over that again in just a minute. But without further conversation, remember, I'm doing all these things by myself today, so you just have to be patient with me. I'm going to take this down, and I'm going to bring Jayla Rae in. Hi!
Hey! Hi, everyone. It's good to be here.
It is so good to have you on our show today, Jayla Rae. I am so excited about this Enneagram stuff, mostly because I think it's fascinating when you really find kind of like that, I don't want to say category, but that community where you feel like you fall into place somewhere and people understand who you are based on that. Does that make sense? Like it just puts some boundaries and expectations. I feel like strengths and personality test type things or like identifications like that really help like build that like they give you some guidelines. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It's about those guidelines that community is creating. And it's also about a shared language that these kinds of systems bring to you already.
Yes.
So then you're working under the guise of that language. And when you say a particular term or a word, you know that community understands what it is that you're referring to and what you're talking about. So I totally get it. And I've, been immersed in the Enneagram community myself for a while now. And I've found incredible people who I can chat with and nerd out with and learn from and get coached by. And it's been amazing.
Yes, I know. And I say the older I get, but the more seasoned I become, I'm going to put myself in that terms. The more seasoned I become, the more fascinating it is to me, where those connections and those interpersonal relationships are really like having that definition is super helpful. Maybe because I'm like, I don't have time to try and figure this out anymore. I'm too tired for drama. I'm too tired. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. I think you just change the older you get.
Just give me the answers.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. All right. Before we get too far into this conversation, I want to make sure that we do our coffee cup selfie. So let me grab our little banner here. We're going to throw this down and we're going to do it. And we're going to have Selena. We wish you were here with us. But
Hi, Selena.
hi. Cheers. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Okay. All right. So should we jump right into the questions? Because I really want to focus a lot on the Enneagram itself and kind of your work with it and how people can use this as small business owners and entrepreneurs. So let me throw up the very first question that we have. How does knowing your personality strengths, or your Enneagram number in this case, unlock a successful entrepreneurial or small business owner journey?
Oh, it's such a juicy question. And as you can imagine, it's not like this short brevity type answer, but I am going to give you the shortest one that I can think of at this moment.
Okay.
So basically, if you know your personality type as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, it's that building the self-awareness that is actually what is going to unlock your success as an entrepreneur. So there's so many different messages out there online. It's all about how to make more money, how to be more productive, how to do X, how to be more Y, how to feel Z. And all of those things are great. And all of those tips are awesome. But if you don't know who you are and why you do what you do and how you are motivated to take on those behaviors, then all of that kind of just becomes useless noise because you're not individualizing your journey and understanding how your personality is shaping your entrepreneurial journey. So it's really about building that self-awareness. I think it's so basic to say build self-awareness, but actually we as humans, that is not a requirement. We can make it all the way through our life and see some success and do really cool things and have zero self-awareness. So this is a personal endeavor. This is a choice to take on using a particular system in order to aid that process of building more self-awareness. And the Enneagram just happens to be my favorite. So that's why you're hearing me talk about it today. But I know that you know that there are so many different personality-based systems out there. So that is one thing that I like to say. But this is also where the Enneagram basically becomes a map that is both fun and difficult to traverse, because that process of building self-awareness is about recognizing when you've stepped into modes of stress or growth. And if you've seen the Enneagram symbol, it goes in a circle here. It starts with type 1 and it goes all the way to type 9. And then there's all these fun, like funky lines going on in between. And you're like, I don't know what this is supposed to mean. The symbology of it is actually really important to remember because it represents how dynamic the Enneagram is as a system. Those lines are representing how you move as your personality type. You're taking on the characteristics and traits of other types in the Enneagram. So you have your core type, that's never going to change, but you kind of like move through this system. And the more time you spend building the self-awareness and understanding when it is you are moving between stress and growth, just like Anna said before, you're getting that sense of community and that language to describe why it is that you're doing what you're doing. And you're essentially cracking a code so that you as an entrepreneur can understand, okay, well, I don't want to do that again. I don't want to repeat that.
That's such a great line. Knowing your strengths is like cracking a code for your entrepreneurial journey. That should be a t-shirt. That's our t-shirt for this week, right?
Yes.
I love that. Well, okay, so there's a couple of things I heard you say that I find really fascinating. The one is it's a choice, right? Like people feel like, I think that there's like a general, well, I know who I am. I know my personality. I know what I'm all about. But that's not necessarily true, right? Like it really depends on how much inner aware, I don't know, maybe study you've done or how aware you are, or really Like, how often do you sit down and think things through about why did I react that way? Or
Yeah.
what is my motivation in this situation? So
Right. Why did that trigger me? Why did that thing trigger me so deeply?
and
And
really understanding what's the root of it is,
yeah.
not just the situational bit of it.
Right.
Interesting. I love that. So that right there is huge, because I do feel like when you choose to become an entrepreneur or a small business owner, like, that is not an easy journey, right? So there has got to be something deeper than, sounds like fun, you know? Fun. I don't know a single person that would say that. Right? Let's do everything all by myself. What a great
I don't know. I could think of a couple types on the Enneagram who might be starting a business because it sounds fun to them.
Really?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
But I mean, even put that aside for a second, like, this is a choice. It is what you were saying and what I'm saying, that it's a choice to start a business. It's a choice to keep in business. It's a choice to keep going. And why not study some sort of system that keeps you in longer, that helps you understand yourself deeper? Because it's not just for the benefit of your business, it's for the benefit of your entire life.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that I heard you say that I really, really like struck me was that when you can understand like that who you are, then it's going to guide you through your business, right? It's going to guide you through your business choices. It's going to help maybe make smarter choices even, right? So what is it about like knowing those strengths? And there was another thing I wanted to ask. Okay, we're going to just combine these things into one, right? So you had mentioned in your intake form, and this is all stuff nobody else has seen but me, but you mentioned in your intake form that there is a point where your strengths can become your weaknesses. Mm-hmm. So can you just talk us through that a little bit? Like, when you know your strengths, you think, I am empowered now. But at what point does that strength become then a weakness for you?
Yeah. And I've spent a ton of time talking about this, and I'm certainly not the only Enneagram coach who presents it this way as well. There are a lot of people online who say your biggest strength is eventually going to become your weakness. And when you're using the Enneagram as the language and the lexicon to describe that process, I think it just breaks it down so much easier to understand. Because once you understand your type and how it functions and all of the defense mechanisms, you can see this really clearly. So what I wanted to share about that today is that if you think about it, when you're told by somebody that you're really good at something, first of all, it's incredibly validating. You're like, oh my gosh, somebody noticed. Somebody sees me. Somebody understands me. Maybe you didn't think that you're really good at that thing, but for someone else to recognize it within you is so, so validating. So we see it as a strength. And we think, all right, well, I'm going to go hard and fast on this strength. This is what I'm going to focus on. This is what I'm going to do over and over and over again. And I've seen this specifically just on a personal level with type 3s and 7s, although it's by no means like limited to just those types. But when it comes to our businesses, let's say that someone is using their personality type to establish connections, and they're super great at networking, and they love to be the most influential person in the room, and they also care about others finding those connections. And so they become the connector for other people. And it's this web, and it's building this gigantic web of connections. This is great for your business, like as an entrepreneur, right? That's an awesome trait and an awesome strength to have. But it's also a skill that can be overused, because sure, you have all of these connections now, but if you haven't been working on the business strategy to support all of those connections and to utilize those connections, then what was all of that for? What was all of that for? So we kind of get like zeroed in on one skill and we overuse it. And then we basically reach what I guess I'm going to start calling a strength plateau. This is when we see something we're good at start to become the weakness, because we've basically overplayed our hand in this area. And some Enneagram types will actively avoid doing the things that they suck at because they want to stay in the green zone. They want to feel good. They want to feel capable. They want to feel competent. So trying to tell them not to overplay their strength is like, wait, what? Like, isn't that what I'm supposed to be doing? Does that make sense?
Absolutely, it does. And let me tell you, this ties in so well. Last week, our guest, Becky Daniels, she was talking about this exact thing, where when there are deficiencies, when you work so hard in one area, but then because this part isn't, you're either not good at it, you don't fully understand it, you don't like doing it, it's confusing or complicated, it's too time consuming, those little sections that get left out ultimately create a void in the foundation of your business, and that will cause it to collapse, right? Or if not collapse, like close down and shut down, collapse where you're in a mess, and now you've got this one long pillar built up and all the rest of the sides of it are crumbling down. That's exactly what you just described.
Okay, good. So I'm glad this is just a continuation of last week, basically, but through a different window.
Yeah, it is through a different window. And it's interesting thinking about it in terms of strengths, right? Because I always use this as an example for myself, because I love being my own business owner, right? I love being an entrepreneur. I do not love finances. That is not my strength. That is not my forte. I just want to throw it in a shoebox and forget about it. And I want somebody else to take care of it. Right. And so it's this thing in my head where I'm like, listen, Anna, either you have to do it or you have to hire someone to do it. You have to spend the money to have this done. Because that section, that's a huge part of the void, right?
Right.
Like not paying taxes or something along those lines. That's a big void in your foundation that will ultimately kill your business. And so, but I know it's not my strength, but it's also something I don't want to deal with.
And I think exactly. I think what you've touched on is, as entrepreneurs, as business owners, we are told outsource your weaknesses. Don't even try to deal with it. Just try to hire somebody to take care of that for you.
Yeah.
I think that is great advice, but only to a point. Because Anna, you just admitted that you don't want to deal with it, which actually means that you probably should be dealing with it and trying to build a few skills in that area so that you can feel strong and confident in it. It's not your greatest strength. It's probably never going to be your greatest strength, but it's something that you can learn to work with as a moment of choosing. Like I'm choosing to grow in this area, and I'm going to get it wrong, and I'm going to make mistakes, and that's okay. And maybe I'll be at a point where I can finally outsource this and hire this out to someone else. But skipping over that part of just like, I don't want to deal with it at all. That's where you need to ask yourself, how is my personality type filtering this situation? How is my personality type working against me in this situation?
That's so smart, because there does need to be some core competency in all of the foundational things of owning your own business, you know? And I love the idea of tying that to our personality strengths and recognizing where people don't like to call them strengths or weaknesses per se, right? But recognizing the things that I don't want to deal with, and knowing that that's something that I don't want to do, but also knowing that it's super important that I know how to read a profit loss statement, that I know how to track my taxes, that because it's kind of like that idea of just handing it off to someone, and I trust that they're going to do their job, but I need to be competent enough to be able to review it and say, yes, this looks right, this looks good, I can sign off on it and feel confident as the business owner that this is being done properly, right?
Right.
Gosh, there's so many different facets to that. It's going to throw us into our very next question as we continue. So let me grab the next question. Look, we've got to think. Guilty, I outsourced until I felt like I could understand more, knowing I had someone strong to keep me in the know financially. Yes. And that might be the answer, right? Sometimes it's having that help on the side, maybe. Anyway, yeah, I like that. Okay, our second question is, what is the practical application of knowing your personality strengths for a small business owner, entrepreneur? How are you using this in your business? And we've already talked about it a little bit, right? With the strengths and weaknesses, but what else would you say about this in terms of like taking that understanding of that, who you are, and applying it to building your business?
Well, the number one thing that I would say is that your decision-making process as an entrepreneur is informed by your personality. Let me say it again. Your decision-making process, every decision that you have to make as an entrepreneur, the list is endless. It's being informed by your personality. It is filtering through your personality type first. So the reason that becomes so important is because in the Enneagram, there is what is called a world view. And it is what it sounds like. It's a set of orders and expectations and feelings that we have about how the world operates. All of that is being filtered through. And so when it comes to making a decision, we're actually using our worldview, and sometimes we don't even realize it because it's actually like subconscious. It's a subconscious thing that's happening. But because, and the thing is that like your decision, sorry, I lost my train of thought because I got so excited, Anna. I was like, oh, I was so ready for this question. I was so ready.
We're talking about the worldview decision-making of all the things that we have to know to apply our personality.
Okay. Thank you so much. So let me use a tangible example because this will ground myself in this part of the conversation as well. So I've seen a lot of business coaches who are trying to coach their clients on how to be more productive, how to make decisions faster, and how to just be that decisive business owner who feels confident and clear on the direction that they want to take their business. Those coaches have their own worldview that they are filtering through that is completely subconscious. They think that the world values winners. They think that everybody needs to increase productivity. And they think that everyone that they are coaching wants to be more like that. And that is not the case. That is not the case. Some people and some personality types actually take longer to make decisions, and there is nothing wrong with that. They want the input from those closest to them so that they can make the most informed decision. They're not the immediate action takers. And there's nothing wrong with not being that way. So this is another area that actually in the free resource that Anna is going to share, this goes into it a little bit with the decision-making process, because if you want to be able to set a goal, you have to be able to make a decision. And this is the area that I love to explore deeper and deeper when it comes to entrepreneurs, because as I said before, and as you all know, I don't need to tell you this, as an entrepreneur, you're faced with like 100 decisions a day. Yeah. So the more you know about your personality in this area, the more it's going to benefit you in the long term.
We've got a question from our audience. Is there a personality type that is not well suited for entrepreneurship, or one where being an entrepreneur is less intuitive?
Oh, okay. Well, thank you, John. The answer is no. The answer is no.
Yeah.
I will say that there are a few personality types, because of their decision-making process, tend to excel quicker in entrepreneurship, but they're also the same people who overuse their strengths to the point that it becomes a weakness a lot faster than the rest of people as well. So there's nobody who's not suited. There's no type who's not suited for entrepreneurship, but I do tend to think of type 3s, type 8s, and type 7s, because they're a part of what is called the independent stance. They're the decisive ones. They're the ones who like get stuff done. And they're also just super productive humans in general. That's just how they operate. Sure. Like entrepreneurship kind of like fits that personality type, but I will not say that any of these personality types don't fit entrepreneurship. That's not what I'm going to say.
Okay, so I love this part of the conversation because we're going to jump just for a few minutes. I want to really jump into kind of some of that little personality stuff. And Selena did I'm going to bring this up right now. She did have a question for you. So let me throw this on and let me move this over. Again, thank you for your patience with me trying to do all of these things by myself.
Jayla Rae, a quick question for you. Anna is an 8. I'm a 2. How does this combination work? I'm so curious of your diagnosis of the 8 and 2 working.
Okay, so it's so funny because we had a conversation, just for everyone listening. Jayla Rae and I had a conversation in the background where she was talking about how lots of women mistype themselves as a 2. And then she just was talking about 8s and 3s and 7s being some of those that are decisive decision makers, which is totally me right here. Okay. So now we're curious, like with the Anna Selena combo, that 8 and 2, can you just talk to us a little bit about the numbers and kind of like how that works? And also, just for everyone watching also, tell them why you don't recommend taking an online test to determine your Enneagram.
Okay.
So
let's actually start there. Let's start with why I don't recommend those online tests. Because we also have to realize that both Selena and Anna took a test to Enneagram type themselves. Anna feels super comfortable and confident with this 8 diagnosis, which by the way, it's not a diagnosis. But
it's like a disease. I'm an 8.
She feels comfortable with that. I don't know how comfortable Selena feels with that result of her test.
She said she absolutely feels. We had a big conversation when we talked about having you come on the show.
Okay. Okay, great. But the reason that I don't recommend tests or quizzes for the Enneagram specifically, there's a whole other list of personality-based systems out there that are designed for testing. The Enneagram is one of the only personality tests that is measuring self-awareness. And unfortunately, we think that we're a lot more self-aware than we actually are. And so when we're presented with a test, many different personality types react differently to a test environment. I'll say personally, when I'm taking a quiz like that, I think that someone is over my shoulder and is watching every single answer, and that there are good answers and there are bad answers. And there's none of that. Everything is neutral. It is not good. It is not bad. But if you go into a test thinking that you're supposed to come out on top, or you're supposed to come out with the best personality type, or the one that fits the most, you're probably going to be set up for failure in that way. Yeah. So what I do recommend instead of taking tests is to read books, listen to podcasts, speak with Enneagram coaches who have a lot of experience with presenting certain typing questions. That is something that I can do if you're interested in that. But the general consensus that I want to give here is that you type yourself, and sometimes you're not ready to see certain functions and defense mechanisms about your personality type until you're ready to see them. So some people take a year or a few months, or I don't know, like a very long time to settle on their type. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I just this is not a quick overnight solution. So there's that. We got that out of the way. So then when it comes to type 2s and type 8s, and we're talking about this partnership that y'all have created, and maybe what are some of the strengths or weaknesses or things to keep in mind when it comes to that. First of all, you guys have something so core and true to your personality types in common that you're probably not aware of. So when a type 8 is enacting growth and taking on and moving dynamically within that system, a type 8 is moving toward the traits and characteristics of a 2. And
Mm.
when the type 2 is moving more, is kind of like backsliding a little bit, feeling stressed, in a period of transition or unsure what their next move is, they actually move to 8. So
Oh,
you guys need each other in this really interesting space when it comes to the system of the Enneagram. So I take that as a huge advantage, such a huge advantage that y'all are paired together. And as soon as you understand what those traits and characteristics of each of those types are, you can see when each of you is making those moves. And
that's
sometimes it'll be like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. You're taking on the energy of my type. And then other times it would be like, okay, wait a second, you're taking on the energy of my type, but like, do you need to be doing that right now?
yeah. Yeah, because yes, and that makes perfect sense. Okay. That's very interesting. Selena's gonna go back and rewatch this. She had to close down off, with the airplane and whatever. But
Oh.
this was like one question. She was like, I'm so curious because we've done some of this strengths work together, she and I have. And it is very clear that where I would call where I lack or where I'm not confident, she is very confident and vice versa, which makes such a good partnership. If you're looking for a partnership, I mean, would you recommend then people who are looking to partner that this kind of self-aware work would be something that they should be doing in advance of making that decision to join companies or to join forces, I guess, as business partners?
Oof, Anna, that is a really tough question.
Right?
And in general, I'm going to say no, because that actually leads to a ton of discrimination.
Oh, interesting.
The more that you know about the Enneagram and that you know about each of the 9 types or any other personality-based system, the more biases that you're actually going to form. And a lot of them are going to be formed unconsciously. That's how biases work. Sometimes they just happen and you don't know where they came from, right? But if you're faced with a decision of, hiring on someone to your team or joining forces with some other business partner, and you hear what their Enneagram type is, and you also know that you might struggle with that Enneagram type based on your Enneagram type, that's already creating this situation where you could be making a decision that is not based in enough reality.
No,
Enough
that makes perfect sense though, right? Because you assume that somebody's going to behave or react or be a certain way if you know their personality type. So me saying I'm an 8, which is, one of those decisive decision maker, type of people are, then if somebody were to meet me, they would assume that's the way I'm going to be, which is not the case in every situation. I will say I do like input. I am very practical though, right? Like I can make a decision. Like there's none of that side noise is going to be affecting me.
Yes.
Right. But I do like input. I do like to take my time. I do like to know other people's opinions. So there are things that it's not like it's a hard and fast, you are this type of person. And I love that what you're saying is with the Enneagram, knowing your number. And I did drop the 2 books that you did send to Selena and I that you recommended. I did drop that in the comments, but maybe reading up on that and the different personality types and recognizing where your strengths are and where you might fit within that mold gives you a nice guide, but it isn't a set in stone, like, pin the number and wear the badge kind of moment necessarily.
Yeah. And unfortunately, what happens in the universe of Instagram is the Enneagram is just a meme now. And that is so unfortunate to the integrity of how deep that system actually is. Because what they're doing is presenting all of the strengths of each of the type. And there's like this whole other side of the coin where it's all of the things that you can work on, that you can strengthen, that you can skill build, that are quote unquote weaknesses. So every time you're presented with a learning material, whether that's a book, a podcast, a post on Instagram, you want to be evaluating if that content creator is giving you both sides. Because if they're not giving you both sides, you're not going to learn anything. You're not going to learn anything by someone just reinforcing your strengths every time you read about your type. What is the purpose of that?
Yeah.
What is the purpose of a personality-based system if you're just hearing over and over again how great you are? You know, like it's a system to learn and to grow and to build more self-awareness. And that is often uncomfortable. It doesn't feel good. It does not feel good.
That is such a good like final thought, right? Like knowing and understanding your Enneagram number isn't about empowering your strength. It really is about what you're saying is it's a growth tool. It's going to allow you to build the not strengths sides of you, at least to recognize where they are and to become more self-aware about really why you're doing what you were. I mean, it really just circles right back to what we said in the beginning, right? Why you do what you do, what motivates you, why you chose to be an entrepreneur, how you're going to make those decisions. That's what understanding your Enneagram is really all about.
Yeah, through the lens of entrepreneurship in this conversation, like exactly what Anna just said. I hope that's what you take away from it, because my goal is really, this is a conversation about it. This isn't like a typing seminar. This isn't something to convince you that the Enneagram is the greatest personality-based system out there. Like, P.S. I think it is, but like you don't need to think it is. That's not really the goal today, but it is more about understanding how much of your personality is intertwined with your business.
Yeah.
And it's the very reason why they say starting a business is going on a personal growth journey, whether you were asking for it or not. It's the same reason why that's true.
I love that. Whether you were asking for it or not, you're on your way. It doesn't matter whether you wanted to grow or not. You're going to, period.
Exactly.
All right. So let me pop this up really quick. And then Jayla Rae, can you tell everyone about this toolkit, what you have available? And I'm going to drop the link in the comments so everyone can access it.
Yeah, so this is a MilSpouse Enneagram guide. It's just a free resource. It's going to guide you through a particular goal setting framework that is specific to your Enneagram type. Spoiler alert, I can't stand those goal setting frameworks out there that exist that are not specific to your personality type. I don't think those are helpful for a lot of the reasons that we've discussed today. Each of the types has their own worldview. And if you're not taking that into consideration, then you're just learning from somebody who doesn't understand the world the way that you do. So that's kind of where that push-pull comes in. So this is a goal-setting framework for each of the 9 types. It's going to go into stances. You're going to see a lot of the same little tidbits and information that I've presented today within this resource. And it's specific to military spouses because that's who I focus on. But hey, if you're here and you're not a military spouse and you're watching, like, this is still going to be really helpful to you. So go ahead and take advantage of it.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much. Okay. Yeah. All right. So Jayla Rae, it has been so fun having you on today and having this conversation. Can you tell people if they want to connect with you, if they want to kind of like, oh, sorry. My thing's going all over the place. What is happening here? Okay. Can you let everyone know where they can find you, how they can connect with you better? This is just becoming more mindful of who you are. A conversation with Jayla Rae might be a fantastic place to start. So
absolutely. If you're interested in an Enneagram related training for your small group or program, I host those. So please reach out to me. You can find me online at jaylarae.com. I have a podcast. It's called the Heart of a MilSpouse podcast. You can also find Enneagram related content on there if you're not much of a reader. So go ahead and download those episodes and binge those. And then I'm on Instagram at mil.spouse. I'm not a huge fan of Facebook or LinkedIn. So sorry. So you won't find me in those places. And if you do, they are very outdated profiles. So come DM me on Instagram, y'all.
She is located on those places, but don't expect her to respond quickly is, I guess, maybe the better way to put that. All right. So All right, our tip jar this week is from Caitlin Eldridge CPA. And this is, we added this because every small business owner and entrepreneur just needs that little weekly reminder about better financial responsibility and stewardship. So if you're looking to reduce your taxes, put money into a pre-tax retirement account. Very simple, easy to set up. So if that's where you're looking to reduce, if you need to reduce your taxes for your small business, this is one great way to do it. And then you get all that money back later as a entrepreneur. Thank you, Caitlin from Eldridge CPA LLC, one of our fabulous contributors to our tip jar. And then once again, next week, we are going to have on, I'm going to move over here, and sorry guys, I'm doing all the banners and all the things.
You're doing great.
Thank you. So on August 2nd, which is our next show. So next week we're taking a break, but 2 weeks from now, we're going to have on Kate Needham and Sarah Lennox, and they are with the Armed Forces Housing Advocates. And they are going to be talking about having a passion about making a difference. And it does not matter if you're a nonprofit or if you're a for-profit. If one of the reasons and the motivations behind being a small business owner or an entrepreneur is that you want to make a difference somewhere, either with the products that you do, the services that you offer, the personality that you have, then this show is going to be for you. So I hope that you join us. As always, you can find us at annaandselena.com. on your favorite podcast platform, Instagram. We do love LinkedIn, so come join us on LinkedIn. Oh, we're getting a selfie. And then I just want to thank Jayla Rae again for being here with us today. Jayla Rae, thank you so much for being our guest. I'm just going to give you a big heartfelt thank you from Selena too. I know she was super bummed that her flight situation moved her to be booked during this conversation. But I've taken away so much good information about what you said today, and I cannot wait to reconnect. And I'm going to get that book you recommended because I'm really interested. Self-awareness at this point in my life is something I'm interested in doing. So
Anna, send me your address and I'll send it to you because I love to send it as a gift. It's my favorite gift to give.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited. Thank you very much. I will do that. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today on the 15-ish minute coffee chat. And we can't wait to see you again next week.
Bye.